So a new student came to me recently, completely frustrated. He'd spent the last 2 years jumping from video to video on YouTube, chasing every shiny new shortcut and secret scale on the internet. And he just can't figure out why he still can't play a decent solo. I told him the same thing I've had to tell countless players over the years. Teaching trends change, algorithms change, but the fundamentals never do. You don't need 100 random tricks. You need a few bedrock concepts solidly wired into your brain and your hands. Because at the end of the day, we all want the maximum return on the time that we have to practice. And out of everything I've taught over the years of playing and teaching, there are 3 core fundamentals I keep coming back to with every single student. Once you master them, you stop spinning your wheels and you start to make real music. The first concept, it's where fretboard mastery begins, so grab your guitar, let's get into it. Concept number 1 is triads. Now, a lot of players view triads as either boring theory or something too simple to worry about. But in reality, they solve 2 of the biggest problems holding most people's playing back. Problem number 1, getting lost on the neck. If you're relying strictly on a few box patterns, the moment you leave that familiar shape, well, you're flying blind. And even if you've gone further and you've memorized every single note on the fretboard, that doesn't mean you understand how to connect those notes into music, any more than it means a little kid that can sing the alphabet song knows how to read. Knowing where notes are doesn't mean the same thing as knowing how they work together. And triads solve that. They break the entire fretboard down into small, movable 3-note clusters. And suddenly you aren't trying to memorize 100 random dots. You have a clear repeating roadmap to navigate anywhere on the neck. Problem number 2, hitting bad notes. When you're soloing, nothing kills your confidence faster than hitting an absolute clunker. Well, what are triads? They're the exact notes that make up the underlying chord that you're soloing over. When you play a note of a triad, you know with 100% certainty that it's going to sound okay. Let's start by breaking down how triads give you a framework for moving around the fretboard. Whether it's moving up and down, moving across the neck, or both. First of all, a quick review. A triad is a 3-note chord made up of a root note, a note a 3rd interval above the root, and another note a 5th interval above the root. There are 4 types of triads. Major, which is a root, a major 3rd, and a 5th. Minor, which is a root, the minor 3rd, and the 5th. There are also diminished triads, which is made up of a root, a flat 3rd, and a flat 5th. And augmented triads, which are made up of the root, 3rd, and sharp 5th. Now, you're not going to use those last 2 very often, but it doesn't hurt knowing what they are. Let's focus for a minute on how triads provide an awesome structure for navigating the fretboard. Check out this C major triad with the C root on the low E string at the 8th fret, and then the 3rd and the 5th, E and G, on the A string. Now, this is something you may or may not know. If we move over 2 strings and up 2 frets, there's another C note, and our triad shape repeats. And if we again move over 2 strings, and this time up 3 frets because the way the B string is tuned, there's another C note, and the shape repeats. Let's go down to the C note at the 3rd fret of the A string. Our shape works there too. Move over 2 strings to the G string, and then up 2 frets, we've got another C note. Now our shape is going to change a little bit because of the way that B string is tuned again, and we got to remember that. But we've got another C triad, and we're covering most of the fretboard now diagonally. Now we played that last triad with our middle finger on the root note. The root's the only note on that first string, and then the 3rd and 5th are on the adjacent string. We could also play the root with our index finger. The 3rd would be on the same string. I'd play that with my pinky, and then the 5th would be on the adjacent string, or A string. And then lastly, we've got this shape where we could use our pinky finger on the root, and then the 3rd and 5th are both on different strings. Now, all those shapes are useful, and I want you to know them all. Hey, it's Charlie, and I wanted to let you know, if you're sitting there thinking, man, I do not know my triads as well as I should, I've got a great course called the Lead Guitar Roadmap that's available. Triads are just one of the subjects that we do a deep dive into. And I don't just show you how to memorize this stuff, I show you how to actually use it and make it sound good. If you're really ready to get your guitar playing moving in the right direction, there's a link in the description below, and as always, I appreciate your support. Let me show you an awesome drill that's going to help you master moving up and down the fretboard horizontally. What we're going to do is play through the triads in a major key, moving right up one string at a time. There are 7 notes in a major scale, and we can build a triad off each scale degree. And if we do that, we get the triads in this sequence: major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. I call this the Cliffs of Dover exercise. We're going to steal the rhythm of the Cliffs melody. We're going to be playing in G major so we can move up the whole neck. And starting with G major, we're going to play the 5th, root, 3rd, and 5th of each triad, moving right up the low E string. So we would have G, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, F sharp diminished, and we're back to G. And we can keep going. And the last triad that we played there was C major. And to keep the exercise moving, what we would do is drop down the fretboard, go to the C on the A string, start over with C major again. Okay, I think you get the idea. And I would want you to keep going until you finish playing across all 6 strings. It's a great drill because we're training our memory, we're training our ears, we're training our fingers, and we're doing it by playing a pattern that sounds musical and familiar. Here's one last drill incorporating all 3 of the triad shapes that we've talked about. The idea here is to move vertically across the fretboard, playing all the triads in a key in the smallest area possible. This teaches you a different way of finding triads, and it teaches you how to be really efficient finding them by playing them all in just an area of a few frets. Starting on the low E, we're going to play 3 triads with 3 different fingerings. Still in the key of G, we're going to play G major with our index finger on the root, A minor with our second finger on the root A, and then B minor with our pinky on the root. Then we're going to move to the A string, and we've got C major, D major, and E minor. And then continuing over to the D string, we would have F sharp diminished, G major, A minor, and now we are at the G string for our roots. We can't really incorporate all the different forms here, so we're just going to use the 3 strings form, and we'd have B minor, C major, D major, and that brings us back to G. You should be able to do this same drill starting on any of the triads in G major, not just G. We can start on A minor, we can start on C major, we can start on E minor, and still be able to move across the neck like that. You get these 2 drills down, you're not going to believe what it does for your playing and your confidence. So triads have given us an awesome blueprint of the neck. And as we said earlier, if you play the notes of a triad over the same chord, it's impossible to play a wrong note. But if you only play triads, your solos, well, they start to sound like arpeggio exercises. Plus, triad notes over the same chords start to get boring. It's like putting more vanilla ice cream on top of vanilla ice cream. We want the chocolate, the caramel, the whipped cream, and the cherry, right? That's where concept number 2 comes in, using different intervals to create tension. Magic happens when you start taking these rock solid triad tones and you start weaving in the notes around them. Specifically, the 2nd, the 4th, the 6th, and the 7th. Think of triad notes as home base and the notes around them as satellites. When you hit a second or fourth over a chord, it's going to create an emotional reaction in people that hear it because it's not a note of the chord. It might sound a little off, and that creates a musical tension that your listener's ear desperately wants to hear settled. Now, the moment that we resolve that tension back into a triad tone, well, the listener's ear relaxes and we aren't just playing notes anymore. We're telling stories. The great players that really make the guitar sing and cry, think David Gilmour, Gary Moore, or somebody like Andy Timmons. They're masters at this. Let me give you some examples. I'm going to demonstrate this over a simple backing track that moves from A minor to C. The first time through, over A minor, I'm just going to play the notes of A minor triad, A, C, and E. Then over C, I'll play C, E, and G, the notes of C major triad. I think you're going to understand really quickly what I was saying earlier about vanilla on top of vanilla. Take a listen. Okay, that got really boring really fast, right? But listen to what happens if we introduce some danger, a little musical tension into the mix. Over that A minor, we could start a lick with E but bend it up to F, which is the sixth of A. And it's going to sound really haunting over that A minor. The longer we hold that F, the more tension we're going to build. And then we can resolve it to E, which is the fifth of A, a chord tone, and finish over the A minor chord by playing C and A. So we ended up playing all the notes of the triad anyway, but we added in just that one tension note, and I don't even hear it as a triad anymore. I hear it as a complete musical phrase. And then over C, let's get crazy, and we're going to get D, F, and A, which is the second, fourth, and sixth of C, into the act. We're going to bend C up to D, and then D into both E and F. And then we're going to bend G up to A. So let's hear these embellishments over the two chords on our backing track. Here we go. Now let's think about what we did over that C chord so conceptually you're really clear. D, or the second, wants to resolve down to the root or up to the third. F, or the fourth, is going to want to move down to the third or up to the fifth. A, or the sixth, is going to want to move down to the fifth. And if we had used it, B, which is the major 7, wants really badly to resolve to the root. Learning how to get those tension notes into your licks and milk them for all they're worth, it's how you make your guitar really sing. And now we're going to bring all of this home with concept number 3, and that's adding phrasing ornaments to the notes that you play to really bring them to life. Here's an idea that builds on what we've already learned about triads and intervals. We're going to play what we call different inversions of triads, which just means that we're going to play the notes in a different order than root, third, fifth. We're going to introduce some tension notes into the triads, and we're going to use tension notes to move between the different inversions. And then we're going to really move in for the kill by adding bends, slides, and vibrato. Let's go up to the 12th position, and we've got this C major triad on the B and E strings with C, E, and G. But what if instead of the plain triad, we play C, D, E, F, E, D, C, A, and G? So the triad notes plus the second, fourth, and the sixth intervals. That's a nice lick, but let's turn up the heat by sliding into the C. We're going to bend up to E from D, and then with that same bend, we're going to bend into F also. That's sort of a David Gilmour thing. And then we're going to drop back to the C. And now we're going to do a simultaneous slide and bend on the G note up to A, and then let off that bend back down to G and give it our best vibrato. Now we're sounding like we mean it. Now I'd mentioned inversions, which we said is just playing the notes of a triad in a different order. For instance, at the 8th position, we can play G, C, and E. So we started on the 5th. We call that a second inversion. And to spice it up, we're going to add in the D and the F and some bends. We can move up to the 12th position, and we've got C, E, and G. We call that the root form. And we can spice that up by adding in D, F, and A. And as we saw before, some bends and slides. Lastly, let's jump up to the 17th position. We've got E, G, and C. We start on the 3rd. We call that the first inversion. And to make it more interesting, we're going to add in F and D. So with those tasty bends and the vibrato, I think that sounds fantastic. And lastly, let's connect to inversion. Let's say the triads at the 8th position and the 12th position. We can start at the 8th position and play G, C, D, E, bend the E to F and release it. And then shift up to bend the F to G. And now we're in that next C triad inversion. We're going to release that bend and play E, C, and G. And we're going to create one last bit of tension by sliding into A or the 6th, giving it our best vibrato, and then sliding back down to G. So that's 3 awesome fundamental concepts, each one building on the next. Now, we only scratched the surface of what we can actually do with these 3 concepts. And still by the end of the video, we were playing some great sounding licks. Imagine how much music you can make with just these 3 concepts if you really dig into them. And I'll also say, if you don't know this stuff, or you know it a little bit but can't make it sound good, then you should probably tap the brakes on learning a bunch of other stuff until you can. This stuff is so fundamental, and it's why it's a cornerstone of the way I teach. I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video, you subscribe to the channel. Every week I do a video like this aimed at helping you become a better guitar player. Have fun playing that guitar, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.